Hi, welcome to Transparent with Tina. I'm Tina Marx, your host, and today I have an amazingly talented guest who I have the pleasure of interviewing a second time in my lifetime. He has an MS in nutrition, he has a PhD in natural health, a doctorate in naturopath. He's written over 100 peer-reviewed articles, over 70 books, keynote speaker around the world. He's considered one of the top research scientists in the last 2.5 decades, and he has his own product line. Boy, that was a mouthful to get out. I'm glad it wasn't anymore. Please welcome my guest, Dr. Robert O. Young. So from the way I understand it is that if your body is too acidic, it's a breeding ground for disease. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's not only that it becomes acidic, it's where it becomes acidic. And a lot of people aren't familiar with this, even medical doctors, is the genesis of all sickness and disease begins in the interstitial fluids of the largest organ of the body called the interstitium. The interstitium is not taught in medical school.
What is the interstitium?
The interstitium is an organ that's compartmentalized that holds the fluids that surround every cell in the human body. All of our cells are bathed in fluid. Those are called interstitial fluids.
Yes.
So you have intravascular fluids, which are blood fluids. You have interstitial fluids, which surround all the cells. And then you have intracellular fluids, which are found within the cell. Okay. But the largest organ of the human body is not the skin. Now, the wonderful thing is that currently we're probably there may be others, but probably the only ones that are actually publishing. In fact, I can actually say that we were probably the first ones that published the biochemistry in a article. It's called, let's see if I can find it here. I don't have it, but it was dealing on cancer, and the purpose is to help people understand that we're not talking about variations within the blood pH, because that's secondary. What we're talking about is the variations that take place in the interstitial fluids, which is literally the dumping ground of waste products from the blood and from the cells and their metabolic functions.
Okay.
So when a cell is functioning, it produces acidic waste. Mm-hmm. When an immune system is moving, it's producing waste, blood cells. Every function of the human body produces acidic waste. That acidic waste has to be eliminated. Everything goes through the interstitium. Okay. From the interstitial fluid, it then pushes that into what are called the lymphatic vessels to remove those out through the elimination organs. But the lymphatic fluid is actually, and technically, interstitial fluid. So that is the organ that we're measuring the biochemistry of. To give you an example, if let's say we have a patient that has osteopenia or osteoporosis, we have bone loss. Mm-hmm. Well, that may not necessarily appear, that loss, in deficiencies within the intravascular fluids. But if you're actually testing the interstitial fluids, you'll see that there's a wasting going on due to an acidic lifestyle and diet that's causing the loss of bone, which increases calcium in the interstitial fluid is spiking where the calcium levels in the blood are normal.
Are you saying they're looking in the wrong place?
Absolutely, I'm saying that. Mm-hmm. Let me give you some quantitative percentages here. The vascular fluids only make up 10% of the body fluids. Mm-hmm. The other bulk of all the body fluids are intracellular and interstitial. And the interstitial fluids can make up anywhere to 50 to 60% of those fluids. Mm-hmm. If we're just looking at what are called the extracellular fluids, which is intravascular fluids plus interstitial fluid, that would give us 100%. If we're just looking at those two fluids. 20% would be intravascular, 80% would be interstitial fluid. Now, why is that critical? It's critical because when you go to your doctor, you're getting 20% of the picture.
Right. So why is that? Why is this not more common knowledge now?
Because if you start testing the interstitial fluids, you're going to learn what the cause of disease is, and you're also going to learn the efficacy of the treatment.
Yes.
Whether it's harmful or not.
Yes, exactly. And which we know.
This would then eliminate most pharmaceutical drugs on the market.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is what I've known for a long time. And I've read many, many books on this. Because when I had cancer and I had other women that came forward and had a breast cancer, they would say, well, if that was true, my doctor would know. And just as
absolutely not. He's not educated.
Exactly. No fault of their own.
For example, just in the last 24 months, actually, let's say 36 to be more accurate. In the last 36 months, 2 new organ systems have been announced. One is called the interstitium organ, which was announced and identified and accepted and published. We published it many years ago prior to this, okay? But it wasn't accepted. I mean, I studied it with Dr. Marie Blecker in Germany 30 years ago. In Germany, they call it the colloidal connective tissue of the shod. So interstitial fluid is known, but they don't test for it. They don't know how to test for it.
Right.
Currently, we're the only ones in the United States testing the biochemistry of the interstitial fluids.
So functional medicine doctors don't test for that either? Are we just talking
Absolutely
about?
not.
They don't test for that either?
No. We're the only ones that are testing 100% of in a non-invasive way.
We, okay. Meaning who? Who's we?
We is myself and Dr. Galina Magalko.
Interesting.
Okay.
In the whole country.
So this is why we published in 2015, even though we tried to publish earlier, but it's very difficult. It's not easy.
I know that.
We got this published in 2015, and we quantified the biochemistry of the intravascular, interstitial, and intracellular fluids as a comparison as what the normals are. So once you have the normals in a healthy person, because if you want to understand disease, you have to study healthy people.
Yes.
And then once you've established healthy, for example, this is what healthy blood looks like. This is what corona cells look like.
With the black around them.
No, see the membrane? See the knobbing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you can see it right here.
So let's cut to the chase here. So
what you're getting is you're getting 100% either false negatives or false positives on diagnostics based on the blood. And when you're basing your diagnosis on blood alone, this is way down years later after people could prevent a lot of these conditions that they're challenged with if they were testing all of the body fluids.
Would you say that this virus, one thing I found very interesting, and it's not a good interesting, is that the media will talk about wearing, not catching the virus, 6 feet apart, wearing the mask, so forth. But they're not telling you anything how to boost your immune system. And you tell me if I'm wrong, but just intuitively, I feel if you have a strong immune system, you could be in contact with it. You might even get it, but you're probably not going to die from it. Would that be safe to say?
Well, the answer is not that simplistic, okay? If you were to ask any of the mass media, the conventional media, they don't even know what the definition of a virus is. If you ask them to define the immune system, or pretty much most people on the planet, they don't even know how to define the immune system. They don't know what eosinophils are. They don't know what neutrophils are. They don't know what basophils are. They don't know what T cells and T killer cells are, and B cells and antigens and antibodies. They don't know this. Most people don't know this. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the white blood cells, which are defined conventionally your immune system, is not an immune system at all. That's another scientific myth. True immunity is found by managing and maintaining the interstitial fluids of the interstitium. That's what you have to do to prevent cellular membrane breakdown and genetic. In other words, the genes do not determine your destiny. Right. So after mapping out the human genome and trying to then locate deficiencies within that genome that are associated with a specific disease, there's too many variables. And what you find out, the genetics doesn't determine the disease. What determines the disease is the environment that surrounds the cell. So what we're back to is away from the germ theory, which is viruses invade, infect, and cause disease. Bacteria invades the body as if everything is the prey of life. Nothing is the prey of life. Mm-hmm. You see, when we're talking about bacteria, we're talking about a symptom. A symptom of what? When we're talking about yeast or mold, like aspergillus in the condition of a lung condition called aspergillosis. Okay, well, what's mold doing in your lungs? The same thing that mold's doing on bread that's been stuffed at the back of the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. It's not an infection. It's
all about elimination. If your body is not.
No, it's not. It's not even elimination. It's about circulation and then elimination.
Circulation and then elimination. Okay.
Yeah, and before that, if you're peeling the onion back, it's about managing and maintaining and knowing how to manage and maintain the alkaline design of the human body.
That's where I want to go right now, because I think everybody wants to know, how do you manage that?
Well, first you have to understand that the invisible virus is actually a phantom virus. It only exists in someone's mind or on a piece of paper. But it's not reality. The exosome of HIV, which is actually a good guy, not a bad guy, is identical to the COVID, is identical to, these things are identical. So we got an exosome for this, and their appearance-wise are very much the same. Mm-hmm. There may be some variations. For example, COVID-19, when you compare genetic testing for COVID-2, and what are we testing? We're doing RT-PCP testing, which is reverse transformation testing of a so-called retrovirus. But what are we testing? We're not testing a virus. We're actually testing an exosome, which the cells create endogenously. So how can you be infected by something that's created from within that's being released as a protection? Yes. So number one, I want to be perfectly clear. There are no viruses, period. And the reason I can say that is because there is no scientist in the last 100 years, I say 100 years because we're starting at the Spanish flu epidemic, that's actually isolated and identified and then using what is called the gold standard, which is Koch's postulates, to demonstrate that this is the agent that causes disease. It's never been done with polio. It's never been done with Zika. It's never done with COVID. So here's what I would like the people listening to this. Where there is a so-called virus, let's take polio. There is a specific acid that's causing, the meningitis, that's causing, the encephalitis, the inflammation of whether it's the lungs, inflammation of the nervous system that's causing atrophy of the muscles, of the nervous system and the muscles. What is causing that? It's called chemical poisoning. What was the chemical that was causing polio? There is no virus. There's a specific chemical. It's called DDT. They were spraying it on children. They were spraying it on our foods. As soon as that was outlawed, as soon as it was stopped by Congress, guess what happened to polio? Not because of some vaccine. In fact, that even induced more of the symptoms. But the bottom line is polio disappeared. And they declared that they had eradicated the world from polio, other than the fact that now these chemicals are being introduced. So we have a new label for polio. It's called Zika. And what's the chemical poisoning? It's called glyphosate. So glyphosate is an herbicide. It's found in most non-organically grown food. And this is the poison that's causing birth defects. It's causing neurological disease, you see, and it comes and goes. Well, now, more people are getting smart, and they're realizing that one of the treatments is not to eat non-organic foods.
Exactly.
Okay, foods that contain chemicals that are harmful to our bodies, insecticides, pesticides, herbicides.
Right.
But can we trust the food that's coming from Mexico that hasn't outlawed some of these chemicals?
Right.
This is why...
I even take it a step further, to be honest with you. I'm so skeptical. I even if it says organic, to be honest with you, there's a part of me that goes, because now there's organic. It's got to have, on the symbol, it's got to have, it's all either all the way black, or if it's half black, it's kind of half organic. I mean, it's very tricky to really identify if something is truly organic and not getting sprayed with any harmful chemicals.
Let me give you another example that people will relate to. The disease called gout. What is the acid that causes gout, and what does it come from? Two sources. The acid is called uric acid. The acid comes from the ingestion of animal blood or flesh. So beef, chicken, pork, fish, eggs release sulfuric and uric acid, which causes the symptom of gout. It also causes diabetes and neuropathy and a whole host of other things. So whatever the disease is, there is an acid. What causes cancer? There's a specific acid, two of them.
What?
Lactic acid and citric acid.
Lactic acid is from exercising.
Now, it can be from exercising, but it can also be from dairy products. It can also be from metabolism. Lactic acid and citric acid are acids that are produced when cells are functioning. Okay, so guess what? You test the blood and there's blood parameters for lactic acid. And let's say this person already has a diagnosis of cancer. I already know what I'm going to see. I already know that I'm going to see elevated lactic acid and citric acid levels in the interstitial fluids of the largest organ of the body, the interstitium. If someone has a inflammatory condition, we're going to see elevated lactic acids in the interstitium, not in the blood, because the blood has to purify itself to maintain its delicate pH balance of 7.365. Now we know what the cause is. The cause for cancer is an acid. And there's many different acids, like citric and lactic acid being the predominant acid that causes prostate cancer, breast cancer. And you'll always find this acid in concentrations in and around a tumor, which is trying to encapsulate cells to literally protect the healthy tissue.
That's what I've heard. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So the cancer.
So the acid that's creating the problem.
The cells, correct?
Yeah, but you can't just test. The doctor cannot just test lactic acid levels for intravascular fluids. You have to test 100% of the fluids. you have to test outside the vascular system and test the lactic acid levels in the interstitial fluids, because that's the predominant 80% of the fluid.
And how is that done through a blood test?
No, it's done through a patent pending system which we call the 3D functionality test, which incorporates interstitial fluid testing of all the fluids of the body with the biochemistry. And you, just like taking an EKG, we have electrodes that are attached to the body that then will measure, and quantify these particular compounds.
Okay.
These particular elements.
Have access to these to do these kind of testings?
Not right now, they don't. This is the way of the future. This is the way that we can then test, for the efficacy. Is chemotherapy really helping, or is it acidifying the interstitial fluids, causing what is called metastasis? Because the interstitial fluids are systemic. And if you're putting acid into the blood that then pushes that out into the interstitium, thinking you're going to reduce a tumor, all you've done is compound the problem. That's what is being seen from our perspective. When I say our, I'm meaning Dr. Galina Magalco and myself. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get a hold on it, so what is COVID? COVID is carbon monoxide poisoning. It's methane poisoning. It's carbon monoxide poisoning. It's lactic acid poisoning, citric acid. And to compound that, you can also have toxins within, the treatments that are being used, or to actually underline the problem, you don't ventilate or respirate someone who's in DIC. You end up killing the patient. Because the blood can't get in to pick up or release its carbon dioxide. So if you put more oxygen, what's the point? The point isn't there. It's a vascular condition. What's causing the vascular condition?
Well, if they can't breathe, what would be the answer then?
The answer is to increase systemic circulation, to alkalize the interstitial fluids, right, to open up the pathway so that the cells they're not like this. Let me show you a picture. This is what it looks like. You can go to Dr. Robert Young /blog and read our latest, which is under review right now for publications, Pathological blood coagulation, brackets DIC,
okay,
leading to pathological coagulation leading to blood, DIC, and lung, SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. It's not a syndrome. We know the pathology of it.
Right.
So we know the pathology of COVID. Yes. It begins in the blood, not the lung.
Right.
So the treatments can't begin with the lung. They have to begin in the blood.
They have to begin in the blood, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So this is why, it's important to take off the mask. It's important to exercise. It's important to get fresh air. It's important to get, to move your body, to get it circulating. I'm trying to find this picture for you here.
If you, Dr. Young, if you were to say 3 food supplements, let's say only 3, that you would recommend that somebody is probably deficient in and that needs to incorporate more into their diet, I'm not talking about processed foods. I'm talking about what are most people lacking that's where they are becoming more of a grounds for disease?
Well, they're lacking alkalinity, because you can't have a disease in an alkaline environment.
Alkalinity. Okay.
So we're alkaline by design, so drinking more alkaline water.
Yes.
I mean, that's a simple thing at a pH of 9.5 up to 11.
Yes.
In severe conditions. This is what pathological blood coagulation looks like. So when you compare that to the picture that I showed you just earlier, I don't know if you can see those.
Yes.
See how the blood's clotting together?
Yes.
Here, you see all the blood clotting?
Yes.
All the blood, you see it's chaining? How in heaven's name is the blood going to get into the lung to remove its waste and pick up oxygen? It can't. You can't solve that problem with a ventilator. So when someone starts taking hydroxyquin, I think that's the pronounced way to say it. You know, when you're taking this particular supplement, it raises the pH, thus neutralizing the acids that are causing the blood to stick together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's called hydrochloroquine. Yeah.
And I went on your website earlier. You have a lot of products. Those products are to help alkaline your body, whether they're the powdered greens or the reds, or you must have 25 products on there that are all designed to bring you back into pH balance.
Well, the most important things that the product offering gives to a person is foundationally to improve circulation. I mean, that's what is called the L-arginine Max product. And that particular opens up the channels of circulation. Some of the other products like the Prime pH or the Purify releases into water when you drink it, releases what the immune system or the white blood cells release. They release hydroxyl ions or electrons to neutralize acids, thus maintaining the integrity of the pH. So OH minus, SO minus, KOH minus, potassium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide. These hydroxyl radicals are scavengers of waste, scavengers of acidic waste. And this is what purifies that internal, which is to the benefit of the blood in order for it to move freely into the pulmonary system, into the pulmonary capillaries, and let's dump its waste and pick up oxygen and then bring that back into general circulation. Right. Because if you're not oxygenating, you're not going to be able to circulate.
Right.
And things are going to start becoming coagulated to where elimination becomes problematic.
Exactly.
And that's so elimination is critical, but circulation precedes elimination. And so, you know, products such as the greens, like the Interlight Super Greens, provides a concentration of grasses and green vegetables that are high in chlorophyll. And chlorophyll,
I noticed there's a lot of reds in there too. You've got like raspberry leaf, because the reds are, I'm reading the reds are very important as well as the greens.
Yeah, raspberry leaf. There's also peppermint leaf. So there's leaves and vegetables and fruit, but they're all those vegetables and fruits and grasses that will help build or foundational for building stem cells in the crypts of the small intestine. And they're all there that are high in chlorophyll, which is the major molecule for carrying oxygen. It's the major molecule for buffering acids such as carbon dioxide. So red blood cells have multi-functions. They chelate or buffer acids, but they also help to oxygenate cells. In addition, the red blood cell is the foundational stem cell, which becomes your new bone, your new muscle, your new brain, your new heart, your new liver. And the quality of the blood then it determines the quality and health of every organ, gland, and tissue. And that's built with 4 ingredients: chlorophyll, oil, water, and salt. Those are the 4 ingredients to building healthy embryonic stem cells that then become the erythroblast or the red blood cell, the erythrocyte, that circulates throughout the body, becoming new glands, new organs, and new tissues. So and the body's constantly renewing itself. You make 220 billion cells per day, body cells.
Yes.
But you're making 5 million red blood cells per second. And the quality of those red blood cells determines the quality and health of every organ, gland, and tissue.
Right.
And you cannot have healthy organs and glands and tissues if they're not bathing in interstitial fluid with a pH of 7.365, which unfortunately your doctor is not even measuring. So how would you measure your interstitial fluids if you don't have access to our testing? You test your urine. The urine is a product of the interstitium fluids.
Okay.
And if the pH is below 7.2, you're in trouble. Most people are running around 5.5 to 6.5, and that's why most people are sick. Ideally, pH should be at 7.2 or greater. This is why I created a product called 4 Salts. 4 Salts has the 4 major electrolytes: potassium, sodium, magnesium, and calcium. These in carbonate and bicarbonate form. These salts help to neutralize the acidic waste products, to help buffer and maintain the integrity of the red blood cells so it can perform its major functions. And
that would be definitely something that you would want to get, and that's called the 4 Salts, right? So that combined with the grains. And
they're 4 cornerstones. So you've got the greens. So I call it the COWS program: chlorophyll, oil, water, and salt. It's this right here.
Okay. Well, we'll actually put that on the screen.
Yeah,
the chlorophyll would be the greens, the water would be the alkaline, the salts, and then what about the oil?
Well, that's COWS, CO. So oxygen, oils is O. W is water, and S is salt, sunshine.
Got it.
Those types of things.
Well, that's pretty easy to you break it down like that. It doesn't seem so complex for people, right?
Well, the science can get complicated, and even the treatment can get complicated, but it's very, very simple.
It is.
All sickness and disease is due to an acidic lifestyle. So it's what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, what you think, what you feel, what you believe. Okay, that's all. Yes. Every disease, doesn't matter what it is. And all sickness and disease are just levels of acidity. So enervation, which is I'm tired, is stage 1 acidosis, where something like cancer is stage 7, where inflammation is stage 4. You can't have an inflammation without a specific acid.
Yeah.
So this is the problem then. The solution is to restore the alkaline design of the human body fluids to maintain the integrity of the cell. Yeah. That's how simple it is. And the chapter in chapter 5 talks about, in the pH Miracle book, talks about the COWS program in the revised and updated. And in chapter 11, it lists the whole outline. Okay, so you know what? That's the book that I read. How many? That's sold 10 million copies. I don't even know how many copies it sold. But book combined, around 10 million. So I would suggest anybody starting out with that book. I know you're writing a new book. You don't have the name of it yet, but I'm sure I'm going to be having you on for another show. But I think that's enough for our viewers to digest today. Please go to the best way to get a hold of you, see your products, see articles anywhere is to start at drrobertyoung.com, correct? Yeah, drrobertyoung.com will get you to the science, will get you to the articles, we'll give you some products. It'll get you to the blog. The products are at phmiracleproducts.com. Okay, pH Miracle, and we're going to put that below in the text. phmiracleproducts.com. Yeah, so. And if anybody wants to contact you, let's say for a consult or something like that, is there an email on your website, or what's the best way? Yeah, if you go to that's drrobertyoung.com, and you up at the top bar, you can actually click an appointment or set up an appointment. And there actually I have some open areas where I can do an initial consultation for a reduced fee for an hour, so that you end up understanding specifically where you're at with your particular condition and what you need to do to reverse that. So it's a self-help, self-care program to a self-cure. Okay, there you go. You know, I don't cure you, you cure yourself. So a patient cure yourself or treat yourself. And so you'll have the knowledge by reading, the pH Miracle, Or if you have cancer, you know, that's the pH miracle for cancer.
Oh, I never read that one. I've got to read that one.
Yeah, I have a whole series of books on pH.
No,
There's one for weight loss.
There's one for weight loss.
One for diabetes.
Amazing.
And right now, the most popular book that's #1 on Amazon under its category, if I can find it here. Let's see if I can find it. Too many books.
What's the name of it?
I'm gonna look here, see if I can find it. It's this one. This is what the body needs. It needs more of, not necessarily chlorine dioxide, which is sodium chloride, which reduces. It needs more oxygen. Mm-hmm. And this particular compound releases nascent oxygen to neutralize the acids that are causing cellular membrane deterioration and genetic mutation. Not a virus, but waste products that are in and around the membranes of the cells.
All right, so you know what? A lot of information here. I know there's a lot to digest, but you can go through this at your own pace. Pick up one of his books, drrobertyoung.com or phmiracle.com.
Products. Yeah, phmiracleproducts.com.
Miracle Products, yeah. So you can see all the products there, and you can learn more about Dr. Robert O. Young, and you can book a consultation. Thank you so much again for being on the show and letting us, giving us your point of view. It makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm sure a lot of sense to everybody else. So thank you again for
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you, Tina, for having me on your show.
Thank you.
All right.
So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. It's TinaMarxTV. And my website is transparentwithtina.com. I hope to see you all there. Leave comments, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.